Here we're going to be going through intangible assets useful life, and we're going to be really looking at the definition here of useful life here when we're dealing with intangible assets. So the first thing we have to deal with here is the accounting treatment here for intangible assets. And we have our types of intangibles here. I've got them shown here in this chart here, where you've got either limited life intangibles here or indefinite life intangibles. Now with the useful life here, this is what we would use here for amortizing a limited life intangible asset, particularly the capitalized amount here on the limited life intangible. Now when we're dealing with indefinite life intangible assets, we do not amortize it here. So we're going to just be looking at the definition here of useful life. Okay, so first off here, the accounting for intangible assets is based on its useful life. And we're going to be going through these points here. Intangible asset with a finite useful life shall be amortized. Okay, so if it has a limited life or a finite life here, we amortize it. Now intangible assets with an indefinite useful life shall not be amortized. Those we don't amortize. Point 3 here, is the period over which the asset is expected to contribute directly or indirectly to the future cash flows. And that would be its useful life here. Now it is not the period of time that it would take an entity here to internally develop an intangible asset. That would provide similar benefits. It really isn't the time that your development time here in the asset. It's the time that once you have it developed, that would from then on, that would be defined here as its useful life. Okay, let's go up here and look at the useful life based on an analysis of all pertinent factors here, and we'll just go through a list of the factors here. Point 1 here, expected use of the asset. That makes sense here. Point 2, any legal, regulatory, or contractual provisions that may limit the useful life here, cash flows or useful lives which are constrained by duration of the legal rights here. The useful lives of such intangible assets cannot extend beyond the length of their rights here and may be shorter. They could be shorter here, but they cannot extend beyond their legal rights here. Point 3 here, any legal, regulatory, contractual provisions that enable renewal of an extension of the asset's legal or contractual life here. So we're really looking at an extension here of the useful life or the legal life here of the intangible asset here. Point 4, the effects of obsolescence, demand, competition, and other economic factors such as the stability of an industry, known technological advances, legislative action that results in an uncertain or a changing regulatory environment, unexpected changes in, say, the distribution channels here. Point 5, the level of maintenance expected or required to obtain expected future cash flows from the asset here. And point 6, if no legal, regulatory, contractual, or competitive, economic, or other factors limit the useful life of an intangible asset, the useful life here of the asset shall be considered indefinite here. So this is our definition here for indefinite useful life here. Now the indefinite here does not mean the same as infinite here or indeterminate life here. What it does mean is that the intangible asset is indefinite if that life extends beyond the foreseeable horizon. So if it extends beyond the foreseeable horizon here, then it's indefinite. That is here, there is no foreseeable limit on the period of time over which it is expected to contribute to the cash flow. So again, we're looking at cash flows here, and if you don't see any limit here on your cash flows coming out of this intangible asset here, any in the foreseeable future here, then you would consider it an indefinite life here on the asset. So you wouldn't have a limited life or a particularly life determined on the intangible asset. So what we've done is gone through a list here on trying to define a little better here what the useful life here would be on an intangible asset. And again, some of these what it would also be used for, say, a regular asset of some type here, but we're specifically looking at the intangible assets here when we went through our definitions.